Hello, hello. Welcome to the Listen to This Bull live show. I'm Matt Mulholland.
Remington Huggins.
That's his name. This is the show where we talk about insurance restoration and industry specific topics. And then you can, as a live audience, ask us questions live and we'll answer them live. We'll answer anything. Anything. You could ask me what brand underwear I'm wearing. I don't actually know. I'd have to go look. But I'm willing to answer for you. That's all I'm trying to say.
Remington will have a peep.
We'll get it figured out one way or another. It might take three of us and the hat, but we'll figure this one out.
I'm out. I'm not involved in that one.
We'll have to strategize that in a little bit.
I prefer not to look at skid marks.
So today's episode, we are talking about the difference between residential and commercial claims. And we just got a question in already. And I'm dying to know what the answer to this is.
What is Mr. Huggins' attorney nickname? I love it. That is the Atlanta Hammer.
Is it?
It is.
Yeah.
That's a self-proclaimed.
It is not self-proclaimed whatsoever.
I disagree.
It's not self-proclaimed. The guy who asked the question, I think, coined that phrase to me.
Oh.
So, yeah, it was...
this must have been a while ago.
Or actually, no, it might have been another... He was part of it somehow. But, yeah, the Atlanta Hammer. That's what we're going with.
That was not as funny as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, well, not everything is, to your
this
level
is why
of
we
humor.
should work these things out before the show.
Okay.
So, we got a guest hanging out.
Yeah, so Matt Behrens with C3 Group is going to help us out with today's topic. The difference between residential and commercial claims. And I got Matt Behrens on here because everybody knows how good C3 is with the big commercial claims. So I figured he'd be perfect for this topic. So I'm going to go ahead and pull him right on. Understand, though, that he may end up having a little bit of technical issues. Here we go. Hey, Matt.
I hope not. How's it going?
Pretty good. Let's count the delay, though.
A little bit.
5.
I'm just glad to be on with the Atlanta Hammer.
I see Matt's already drinking a beer. 5 o'clock somewhere.
Had to. Especially after that photo that Matt put up for me. That was awesome.
Turn his volume up a little bit. Yeah, we are...
Is this going to work, or we need to do...
I don't know. There is somewhat of a delay. So there's going to be a little bit of pauses between our conversation, but I think we could probably work through it. Before we really start into the topic, though, I understand that you've got quite a bit to discuss, some announcements for your company. As far as I understand it, you are now the sole owner of C3. Is that right?
I am. I'm the sole owner and president of C3. Mike and I kind of earlier this year worked out buyout, and then he's actually running full-time with the American Adjuster Association. So he took a huge step. I applaud it. The AAA got extremely busy really, really quick. Just the amount of amazing membership that we've been able to pull in Texas and Florida, Georgia, obviously, Illinois. We've got a bill going on. He and I kind of created that organization together, and it needed a full-time leadership team, and he's jumping on that grenade. So I could not be more proud of him, and frankly, to be the CEO of C3. So exciting changes around here for sure.
Yeah, well done.
Awesome. Hey, congratulations, Matt.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We did a thing with Mike that never made it onto the air. We did one of our Pubs and Policies shows with him a while back, and we were at the Braves game. It was during COVID, and he wanted to review the video just in case before it aired because it was a live show. Or we were doing it live, and he might have said some things before I told him that the camera was running. I probably don't
I
want to
was
say anything 'cause
watching
obviously
live.
it bothers him a little bit, and maybe he's got a political career in the future. I don't know, so I'm not going to say the things that he said, but it was fun, and we never did end up
I
airing
don't
that
even
show.
remember, but it was
Yeah,
That
it
was
was
a playoff
funny.
game.
It was funny.
I
He
remember
had
that.
no idea that it was live.
I told him, I was like, "Hey, we're recording right now." He said, no, we're not. Yes, we are. Oh, you're kidding. No, we are recording right
Yeah.
now.
We're live.
And then you texted him with what he said, and he freaked out. It was funny. It was great. Anyway, we'll have Mike on the show again at some
He
point
had
soon to talk about
no
AAA.
clue.
And yeah, so is there a lot more stress when you're the only guy at the top?
Uh, well, maybe. I think more of the stress comes from I'm also moving to Texas in a week, so that's taken some time getting through the packing and all of that. Got to move my wife, 3 kids, 2 dogs, 2 cats, and 2 hamsters across state lines. So I'm not really looking forward to next week.
Oh goodness. Oh.
If you put all the animals in one crate, you could call it the car arc,
There you go.
Right.
Move the farm.
the farm. Do you think the cat would eat the hamsters? It probably would.
A male and female of each species.
Yeah.
Keeping it equal.
What day that we
I'm
were talking
trying,
about Matt
trying.
books.
Matt, what states is 3C adjust claims in?
C3.
3C. What did I say?
Oh,
C3?
man,
Let
all
me
over
write
the
this
place.
down for
We
you.
got license.
I think it's because your legal pad isn't yellow.
Yeah, that's why.
You're off your game.
There you go.
Need some better notes.
Yeah. What states are you in, Matt?
We're all over the place, Remington. Florida, the Carolinas, Colorado, Texas, New Mexico, Georgia, pretty much all over the Midwest, Minnesota, the Dakotas, Wyoming, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri. Pretty much throw a dart and we're there.
Got the whole map.
I feel like there's an Animaniacs song in here somewhere.
Can you sing it?
Are you
for
guys
us?
Animaniacs fans? Am I the only one?
What are we gonna do today, Pinky?
You go for it. Sing that song.
I don't know the song. It just sounds like the kind of thing you would have a song.
Take
for.
over the world.
They have the states
Thank
and,
you.
and the capitals of all the states in a big long song. I knew this as a kid. It was the only way I passed that test.
States
Is it
and
Animaniacs?
capitals?
States and capitals.
I don't know that song.
I'm gonna go back and learn it, and we'll do it on the next.
Now kids these days,
No.
they just pick up the phone and Google it.
Me either.
They're good to go.
So
Well, the topic today is commercial claims
I
versus
do that
residential.
too.
Yeah,
Do you?
we all do. We all do. Commercial versus residential.
Yeah.
What's the first thing, Matt, that comes to mind with you when this topic is brought up? Because it is a topic in this industry, whether you're a contractor, public adjuster, or an attorney, that comes up all the time.
Man, there's so much to unpack there. I mean, I think a lot of we got our start in residential. Matt, I know you did the exact same. So you kind of move from picking up some residential claims and building a name for yourself. Then that starts to expand into some small commercial claims. Obviously, the policies get a little bit thicker, a little bit more involved with that, and you move on up to larger and larger claims. It's just it's that natural progression, I think, for a lot of PAs and a lot of companies, which it comes with challenges. There's a lot of strengths and weaknesses there, and people either kind of grow into that or they don't. It's a very broad topic, guys. I mean, it's there's a lot of challenges to moving into the commercial space. I think one of the big things is cash flow. They also take a little bit longer. It's a lot more in depth. You can't go into those projects not having any idea about, the policies and Xactimate and how to build estimates and investigate that and what damage looks like. I mean, I've talked to a lot of guys They kind of make that jump and have no idea that damaged insulation board and Ben's deck underneath the EPDM or TPO roof is actually damaged. So they go up and say, I didn't see anything, kind of making that transition.
We've definitely come across the same thing. I find that for contractors that are doing a lot of residential work that want to break into commercial, they definitely need a lot of help making that transition. So we'll get on roofs and teach them how to do an inspection for those. If there's a contractor watching the show right now that has made the transition from residential to commercial on the contracting side, please post something in the comments. I wouldn't mind pulling you on to ask some questions as well. So if you're a contractor that's made that jump or is about to make that jump, something along those lines, I'd really like to know the contractor side of this. Maybe John Dye is still watching. He'd probably be perfect for that.
Yeah, he would. He has tons of knowledge. I can tell you this, Matt. In this industry, if you're an attorney, public adjuster, or a contractor, I did the same thing. When I first started this, I was doing small residential roofs. $15,000, $20,000 residential arc roofs or 3-tab roofs. And then, it evolves into getting your feet wet with small commercials. And then obviously that leads to, multi-million-dollar commercial claims. And I did the same exact progression. I really did throughout my career. And it sounds like you did too, Matt.
There's pros and cons to it.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be different on what the pros and cons are for each type of industry professional, a contractor, a PA, or an attorney. But as a PA, and when you did this, correct me if I'm wrong, but as a PA, having residential claims there's steady work. You can pretty much count on a certain amount of dollars coming in month to month. You know that you're going to have X amount of claims. If I'm working with 50 different contractors sending me claims, yeah, it's the bread and butter. If you're doing nothing but commercial, there could be spurts of time when there's very few claims coming in, and spurts of time where there's a lot of claims, but the claims are so much more complex that you have to spend a lot more time on them, and they're higher risk.
For sure.
You have the same issue with as an attorney, though. If you're doing things,
Yeah,
you're still on contingency for commercial stuff, aren't you?
Yes, I am. And we're talking tens of thousands of incurred cost versus, maybe paying an engineer $1,500 on a residential or $1,000 on a, ARC inspection. So that is the difference. You're talking the risk and the stakes are higher. They certainly are. But so is the reward, right? That's how the world works. I mean, really.
Yeah, I mean, the reward obviously grows. The risk is definitely there. There's a big E&O risk and exposure going from $20,000-$30,000 claims to $20 to $30 million claims. I mean, it's a totally different beast. But it's kind of that too, because as a PA really starts to get better and that skill set evolves, I mean, they start getting bigger and bigger claims. And then at some point, like, you have no choice but to phase out some of the claims that you used to work, whether you want to work them or not. I mean, I would love to go help a $25,000 homeowner, but that's also tough. So you take the good with the bad. I mean, I think there's a lot of guys that get a bad rap for only dealing with commercial stuff. But guys, it's also a product of what they've been able to achieve and accomplish and being a good PA. It's why they're getting more.
I would agree to that. Like you said, you got to start somewhere and grow, just like any industry, really, in any career. But I do agree with that. What is Dale saying here?
The fight from the other side dramatically increases as you make this upward growth transition as well. I think that's probably true. The claims that get more complex, obviously the dollar amounts are much bigger, so the carrier has a lot more to lose. They're going to pull out all the stops. I had a large shopping center claim where they brought in an engineer and a building consultant, and the building consultant spent 14 days on site mapping with 3D imagery every square inch of this building.
Gosh.
I'm only guessing, but I imagine his invoice is a couple $100,000. He had several people out there with him.
That's rare.
It's insane.
And to give some individuals context, Dale is an attorney in Florida, and so he's been through the growth process as well, and seen what he's saying is the fight from the insurance carrier when you're getting into these big commercial properties.
So John Dye was asking what we're talking about from the contractor side. I'm looking for a contractor, if there's any watching, that has made the transition from residential to commercial, or started to do both recently, or can at least talk about the transition from a contractor perspective. So John, I don't know if you've got that or not, but I know your family's been in construction for a long time, so maybe you have made that transition. If you have, I'd like to pull you on as well and ask you some questions.
I've had this big theory.
Like I know Chris. So Chris Carr with
Matt.
100% construction, he's going through that right now. Paul Reed has gone through that transition. I know guys with Precision have done the same thing. DreamWorks. I mean, there's so many companies, even on the contractor side, that their main business focus was residential. They start getting really good at it. They start making more and more connections, start collaborating with more and more people. The suppliers see that you're doing good work, and they refer you out. I mean, there's that transition it comes naturally. And some it comes quicker, some it comes a little bit slower. But there's a lot of contractors to choose from there.
So, if you're someone that's about to make that transition, there are certain things that you want to have set up for yourself before you start going down that path. There's equipment that you might need that's different from what you would have on residential. There's different insurance requirements for certain things. E&O insurance might go up because your claim size is going to go up, for example. So let's talk about what that might be. What kind of new equipment would a contractor need if they're going from residential to commercial work? I think that really depends on what type of roof they're going to be installing, for example.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely different crews. It's completely different suppliers. It's different materials. It's really learning. I mean, honestly, it's probably the education is the biggest tool that most contractors are going to need to make that jump. But the same goes for the PA side of things too. I mean, start getting more into moisture meters and Tramex and thermal imaging and core cuts, and especially when you're dealing with flat roofs. It's a totally different animal. It's one of the reasons it's like we tried to, right when COVID hit, we actually recorded like an hour and 10-minute training that went through specifically, hey, this is damage assessment to modified bitumen, TPO, EPDM, DensDeck, ISO board, fiber board. The education piece is I think sorely lacking. I think there's a lot of guys that just bite off more than they can chew on both parts of the industry. Same with on the other side with the insurance side. I mean, the IAs oftentimes are going out and looking at a hot-bed roof like it's the same thing as some other roof that they dealt with. It's that you don't really have to dig into with residential claims. There's like the IECC and R value. It's just it's a lot more involved.
Yeah, even from a PA's perspective, there's a lot of equipment you might need to document the damages. You know, I went and got a Tramex meter, which is like a $3,000 meter just to measure up to 4 inches in depth for moisture. Hang on one second. That wasn't working very well. You have to know how to do a new type of inspection. So you might have to peel the membrane back. So there's a different type of inspection involved. If you're looking for hail, you're going to be looking at insulation under the membrane, for example. You're probably not going to see hail damage on an EPDM unless it's really, really old and super brittle. But you might find damage on that roof from hail. If you know how to look for it, you can find it. So having that education piece is important. C3 put out a thing. You guys put out a PowerPoint at one point on how to do that kind of an inspection, what kind of materials are involved. That was really good.
Yeah, that that was actually part of that hour and 10-minute training that Andrew put together, our VP of investigations. He kind of went through and broke down every material type and the full damage assessment. So I can give the YouTube video link for that.
That's probably a good idea for us to post at the end of this. Pate made a comment, and I honestly having trouble deciphering this.
He's saying if you can't have 2 plates on each side, which if anybody works out knows that's 225. If you can't bench 225, then these guys aren't going to take you serious.
The weights are plates.
The weights are plates.
Oh,
You got to bench 225. He'll agree with that if that's what he's trying to say, which I'm 99.9% certain that's what he's trying to say.
I was picturing a buffet, right?
With 2 plates.
Like Pate holding 2 plates
I've seen
of fried chicken.
He's talking about benching 225 is what he's talking about. Hey, the one thing
I've seen
when it gets in
Pate
attorney's
try
hands.
to do the
No,
bar.
what did Matt say? What'd you say?
I said I've seen Pate try to do the bar. I don't think there was any plates on either side of it, but he got the bar up.
Hey, you gotta shoot the score, right?
Are we talking about the bar or like the bar?
The
Well, I think
here's
he tried to take the bar. I don't know how it happened.
I have no idea about all that, but the main thing when it comes to commercial claims for an attorney is having money to back it up. It seriously is. If you don't have money and you're an attorney, I would even say probably a public adjuster, contractor, because like you said, you went through the list of equipment. But if you don't have money, you can't take these claims. You can't properly litigate these claims. I mean, we're talking hiring a forensic accountant. We're talking about tens of thousands of dollars for an engineer. I mean, it just goes on. And not to mention the deposition costs, because they're going to want to depose, the policyholder and his mother. That comes with it, and I'm talking the bill it goes quick. I mean, I'm being serious.
Can they depose the policyholder's mother?
If the mother saw the damage, yes, they can. Wow. So I know some firms that will do that. Unfortunately, I think it's a bad tactic, and I think it's them trying to just increase their attorney's cost hourly fee, but the amount of hours they have in the case. But I'm serious. If you don't have the leverage and money, and you're an attorney, you do not take that case. Now, I know people take loans out to even litigate a case. I've never done that before, but I know people have, just so they can get their feet wet in a commercial claim. But that's something that's big. You really have to take account for how much money you have to spend on a case.
You've never had to take a loan out?
On a case, on student loans, but not on a case or anything to do with business.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a PA going into commercial stuff from residential, it's a big shift. You might have a huge accounts receivable knowing that things are going to be good at the end of the tunnel, but accessing those funds isn't possible. And it might be, depending on what state you're in, if you're in a state with low leverage, it could be a year before you have any access to funds. No, it can be very rough. And there's costs associated with running a business, even if you aren't a large team. You don't need as big of a team. So there's some benefits here too. So going from residential to commercial, I had to have an enormous amount of customer service reps just to keep in contact with the policyholders. They're calling in constantly. Yep. They spend an hour on the phone with you talking about how horrible things are for them. And it's understandable. And if you're not contacting them with updates regularly, they get upset. The contractors want the same thing. Can't tell them enough how many times they can just log into the system. They don't want to do that. They want to hear from you. Not having to do that. If we go from, and we did 3,000 claims a year, residential. You go from that many claims a year, that's 3,000 different policyholders to keep up to date in a year, down to 50 or 100 for a whole year. And make twice the amount of money, right. But that's 50 to 100 clients. You don't have to contact 3,000 anymore. So your overhead can reduce there, but you don't have access to the funds regularly. You can't count on the funds regularly because it's so sporadic. Now, eventually it gets there, but in the beginning, it's tough. Making that transition is not an easy move.
Yeah,
I
it's
think it
that
was
fine
Rel and Beyonce.
line between the transition of cutting off your tap. Sorry, that delay is killing me.
Yeah, it's rough.
We're halfway through and we're making it work,
Yeah.
right? We're good. We're gonna make it work, Matt. If this is the hardest thing we've done all day, then we're doing okay.
Give me the pause when you want me to interject. I'll do it all day long. I know one of the things, like I was talking to a contractor yesterday, kind of on that communication piece that you were talking about, Matt. And he's like, yeah, we usually hear from our PA like every 3 or 4 months, but usually we have to send them the email. And it's like 3 or 4 months. Like, what are you seeing? Like any of the emails or anything like that? It's like, no. And usually the status is about the same. It's just like, they're giving this guy a bunch of commercial work, and it's like the communication has to be on par. They've got to see the communications going back and forth. They've got to see the emails. They got to be involved in the process. You've got to set up like an edification standpoint as far as meeting adjusters on site, the investigation and the scheduling. Like, keep all parties involved. I think a lot of guys get into the habit of just taking on whatever they can. And it's almost turned into, you've almost got 2 parts of the industry, both on the attorney side and the PA side, where it's like you've got sales-driven organizations that don't really service, and you've got really, really good service entities that don't necessarily have the flashy sales. So it's kind of a sad divide, but I think that gap is narrowing.
So you're saying if someone wanted to make this transition, but they didn't have the resources necessary, then there's organizations such as C3 available to have a partnership with, where that PA or contractor could have you guys handle the claims side of it as a servicing company. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, all day long. I can't tell you with how many PAs that we've done partnerships with on different deals. We're happy to help. I think a lot of guys kind of hold these secrets close to their chest, and it's like, you're not building the industry up by doing that. I'd rather give all the information away, even if they turn into a competitor someday. I mean, there's just not enough of us. So from a servicing standpoint, I mean, like you and I, we're doing a bunch of deals together where we're coming in and doing deals. I love the collaboration and kind of building that network, making sure that both residential claims and commercial claims are taken care of, and you kind of build some pretty cool referral networks that way. So there's a lot of guys we talk to, both of us, frankly, in the industry that we're doing those type of deals with.
He cut off there at the end, just a smidgen, just a little bit.
I'm going to fill in what he probably said.
Go ahead.
Greg Dalton has a
I didn't say that.
left foot. I think that's what he said. It's one of those things. Something like that. Makes sense. What are some of the key differences between commercial and residential policies you have encountered? That's a good question. They are very different. Matt, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll do my best, and you can kind of fill in. Obviously, deductibles are way, way bigger. There's a lot of different moving parts as far as the endorsements are concerned. You've got different language as far as like ALE, which is additional living expenses, business interruption. You don't really have that on the residential side of things where you do the commercial. There's one big case that we just did down or up in Colorado. Well, not up. I'm already talking past tense, like I'm living in Texas. But we did a dairy farm up there where you had some structural and hailstorm. And the business interruption piece of that actually afforded them coverage to actually build an entire new freestall. The roofer never caught. The client had no idea. So there's a lot of things buried in the policy that give some really, really cool benefits to the insured if they're done right, and you can present all those facts. So in that case, they were faced with basically, hey, I got to sell a quarter of my cattle off, which is about a $10 million loss for my operation, or I'll build another freestall for $2.5 million and I can move the cattle around. So it was a really big win for the insured in that instance. But there's so many different examples like that where there's different considerations.
On that claim,
Say it again.
On that claim, did the insurance carrier end up having to pay stud fees? I just want to know if the carrier ended up literally paying for the bull or not.
They tried to feed some bull, and that bull got overturned. So no, they elected to build an entire new building to save from having to sell off the bull.
Well, that's pretty good. That's basically paying for the bull. That's the same thing. I'm going to call it a win.
There you go, Matt.
Yeah. What were we talking about?
Here's another difference. Is the homeowners policies, they're like 35 pages. You get a commercial policy, that thing can be 600. Easy. So those are difficult, and they're harder to navigate. They really are. If you don't have Adobe and you can't just search through there, you're in trouble.
Find some stuff.
You're in trouble.
Yeah, the endorsements are different. Very, very different. There is a lot of commercial policies have co-insurance penalties. I think that's a huge difference that maybe we ought to touch on. So co-insurance works like this. If the property costs $100,000 to rebuild and you've got a 90% co-insurance penalty or limitation, and the policy is written for, did I say 100,000 or did I say?
You said 100,000.
So if the policy is written for only $80,000, then your policy is only 80% the value of the RCV. And so there's a difference between the 80% and the 90% co-insurance penalty of 10%. So they'll take the RCV amount of 100,000 and they'll reduce it by 10% or whatever the RCV amount is. Even if the RCV of the replacement is $60,000, they're going to reduce it by 10% because you are only insured for 80% of the replacement cost value. So there's a co-insurance penalty. So that's something to be aware of. It's on the deck page. It'll say co-insurance. It's usually 80% or 100%, or it'll say no co-insurance. If it's 100%, you can almost guarantee there's going to be an issue. If it's 80%, usually I don't come across a problem with that. So that's something to be aware of. What else is in there?
One thing I found out on co-insurance policies is the insurance company actually wants to inflate that RCV value more than it actually is. It's weird. It's like now we're flipping the script here, you know, and whoever the representative for that policyholder, they're trying to say the RCV value is actually a little lower than what it is. It's kind of strange.
If you take it to appraisal, you can take it to appraisal on both separate things, the amount of loss and the value of the property. The value of the property is supposed to be for the co-insurance issue. But if you have both appraisals going at the same time with the same appraiser, now you're asking that appraiser to say that the value of the property is really, really low, but the value of the repairs is really, really high. Yeah. And that is very, very difficult to do. I always found it was easier to file an appraisal for one or the other, and then after that award comes out, file an appraiser for the opposite thing if you need to. But do it one at a time so you don't have an appraiser fighting such a disparate change. Bifurcate it. Or as my friend Opie was saying,
another big one is the ordinance and law.
Ordinance and law is very different in commercial policies. The way that they do, now, one policy to the next ordinance and law might be done differently, but they may have all of the demolition for all of the work, even under the covered loss, could fall under a demolition limit. Or demolition could be under ordinance and law for any increase of demolition that's required by code or enforcement that's on top of what was directly damaged and having to be demoed. And that could have its own separate limit. each one of these policies is just very different, and you definitely have to read almost word for word, especially the property section and the common condition section is usually a good section to go to immediately. Do you believe insureds are being fully informed
Well,
about
and
how
it's
co-insurance
probably
works?
no, never.
No. They don't even know it
I
exists.
kind of going on that last point too. Like, I'll bet 90% of the policies that I get are not actually the policy. Most of them will be forwarded over from property manager, the owner, or the contractor, saying, "Hey, is this it?" No, it's 6 pages. They very rare like it's sometimes pulling teeth to get the actual policy. Your average contractor is going to look at something and say, "Cool, they give me the policy. It's 6 pages. You just don't have the information. If the increased cost of construction is covered properly, undamaged portions, is there a limit to it? Is it a percentage cap or a dollar cap? There's just so much. So like I usually tell contractors is like, even if you go about it alone, get the policy over to a PA. Let us give you some of the strategy stuff. You don't necessarily always need us there from the beginning if you're following the certain steps that you need to take to work a claim, but like at least let us help you with the policy so you don't get stuck up on something and all of a sudden that you're telling the client, hey, the insurance company's refusing to pay for $100,000 worth of something that you probably shouldn't have about.
I don't know if I would. I mean, I've looked at many policies with contractors before, so I guess I've actually done it that way. But I'm not so sure that I would want to tell a contractor that they might be able to go this without a PA on a commercial claim, a large loss. There's just too much risk there for the policyholder. There's almost always additional coverages that are going to be gotten into on a commercial claim that the contractor is not going to be involved in. I think a commercial claim or a large loss, there are good contractors out there that know what they're doing. And I still think those contractors should get a PA involved on the large claims because you're not doing a proper service to the policyholder if you don't get a representative. A PA or an attorney, one or the other, really ought to be on every large claim.
I don't disagree. I will say it still comes down to the client hiring the PA. So there are plenty of cases that I've been around where it's like maybe they've hired a PA in the past. It just sat there for 2 years and that PA didn't do anything with it. So now the client doesn't want to hire a PA. I will gladly help that contractor through the process of what should take place or consult on that deal, even if the client's not willing to hire it. So from the standpoint of like getting into commercial claims and all the pitfalls and the policy issues and should they hire a PA, I absolutely think so long as that PA is doing certain things and it's not just like letting it sit. But that being said, like there's, I mean, you get into apartment complexes just with like some shingle roofs, and I'm going to tell that guy, look, you got 3-inch hail on that roof. You might not need me yet. Go run it, see what you can do. Here's the strategy to kind of run. I never buy into every claim needs a PA.
I'll give you that. If it's a small claim, and that's why we're actually having this show, is sometimes finding a PA or an attorney for a tiny claim isn't really possible. We get free advice all the time. Even on commercial losses, there's going to be small claims. But if you're talking about a multi-million-dollar loss, I think you should probably have a PA on there for the benefit of the insured. And as far as Pate is concerned, he's saying there's contention between us. Maybe a little. I probably won't be petting your head tonight in my lap, but
especially if there's additional coverages involved. And I say that I mean, if there's business income, if it's a residential ALE, I mean, get a PA involved. I mean,
Yeah.
The contractor is not supposed to handle that.
As an attorney working commercial losses, you've worked commercial losses that have PAs and commercial losses that have just contractors on them.
Yes.
Is there a significant difference?
There is a difference. I mean, you have a licensed individual who can actually read the policy, interpret the policy, and discuss the policy as well as negotiate the claim, right? With a contractor, they're not supposed to do that in the states I practice in. I don't know about different states, so I'm not going to speak for those. But there is a difference. I mean, you see the conversations between that inside adjuster and the PA going back and forth, exchanging policy language and why something should be accepted or something should be excluded. And it does. I see a big difference.
If there's a good PA on it anyway. I mean, there's bad PAs too.
There's bad everything.
Can the manner in
Well,
which you write your
we
estimate-
got to build that timeline.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matt. We've got to build that timeline. We've got to be an advocate. We've got to run through and go through the policy, break that down, have those conversations with the adjuster, apply policy to how the estimate's written, apply it to the code coverage. You set all of that up right, and you break that down, and you advocate for those positions, and you document the time delays, and whether it's, hey, I'm answering emails back in 24 hours or 3 hours. It's taking you 10 days to respond to every one of my requests. You're pushing proof of loss deadlines. You're pushing everything to the 30th day on payments or whatever statute it is. There's so much that we can do to make sure that a file is documented properly if it ever needs attorney intervention. Then most contractors just don't have the time to focus on it. That's not their expertise.
This question is right up your alley, Matt. I'm going to let you handle this one.
What is it? Sorry. Oh,
Can the manner in which you write your estimate impact coverage under the policy?
oh man, there's a whole host of ways you could go here. There's a vast difference in writing an estimate that's just like, hey, it's a flat roof. We recently took over a claim where a PA had written it was like 1 or 2 page estimate that was $3,000 a square for a modified bitumen roof. That's all the information that they gave. They didn't break out R value, insulation underneath, the additional documentation that was going to be needed to prove additional R value, the exact scope. When you break that down with somebody who also has certification levels in Xactimate, if that's what you're going to be using, use that apples to apples approach. The carrier uses it, do the same thing, but get some of those certifications. I think, Matt, that's kind of where you were going with that. If you're going to be using the tool, like, make sure you're certified in it. But the way you write your estimate, I think dictates a lot of the way the coverage is done, because frankly, I see guys that scope creep, where they'll throw in a couple things, just try to get coverage opened, and then they reveal the rest of what they want to put forth. I strongly believe in putting all of the facts on the table day one up front. Pick apart the estimate, do whatever you can. But I say that from the standpoint of, like, don't throw the kitchen sink at it. What's fact is fact. Put what's needed.
You and I have had a little bit of contention on this point over the years, just because I work in a state that doesn't have much leverage. So getting that coverage opened up before presenting them with a multi-million-dollar estimate always seemed like a good idea to us. Now, we've attempted things recently to see if we're right about that, and we'll find out soon if it works the same way in a low leverage state as it has for you guys and the others. But to your other point, not writing for the kitchen sink, not writing for everything you could possibly imagine is a good idea. Don't pad your estimate. Make it accurate. You're just going to piss the adjuster off if you put a whole bunch of stuff in there. It's already over $1 million, man. We're talking about a huge claim. It doesn't have to have another $200,000 worth of crap.
Mm-hmm. I've got an attorney that I was working with on a mediate. It was actually a settlement conference with a magistrate judge yesterday, actually, on a case in New Mexico. And the first thing that the magistrate judge does when he talks to the attorneys is like, yeah, we know what happens with a PA involved, so truth lies somewhere in the middle type thing. And that's the judicial system. That's a judge saying that because of how many PAs have come in and throw the kitchen sink at it. And in that case, it kind of worked against us a little bit, and we haven't settled that case yet. And I think it's going to go well. But the problem is the industry is so used to PAs padding their estimate that when you get one that's perfect, that you can't complain about, that there's no line items missing, there's none that you can take out, there's none that you can call fluff, and it's done by an Xactimate certified trainer like our VP of investigations. He put together a perfect file. There was no fluff. There was nothing that the attorney could really say, well, let's take this out. So he's faced with kind of forcing to fight for every penny because that's what was owed. So in some ways, I think we've got to change the narrative to put in estimates everything that's needed and nothing that's not, and stop doing this. Let me throw in 200 grand in general conditions, and my meat in the middle is where I really need to be. I think in the short term, it's probably going to work against us a little bit, but we've kind of been known as that firm that just doesn't put that stuff in. So it helps on the settlement side too.
I can tell you this. Carriers will, or at least the adjusters on site, will show you so much more respect if you present them an estimate that doesn't have crazy things in it. If you're not asking, for example,
Yep.
I was on one the other day. I put some photos up, a 6412 pitch that I climbed just because I wanted to climb it. There was really actually no other reason for me to climb that. I just wanted the photo.
That's like
cool.
inverted, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, giant flat roof, and there was probably 2 square feet of actual storm damage on the flat roof portion of it. Yeah. Satellite dish was blown over, gouged a piece of it. And the adjuster assumed that I was going to be asking for a full roof replacement. And when I told him, why would I do that? It's perfectly repairable. I mean, there might be, 64, 84 square feet of insulation needs to be replaced if the water intrusion got in and spread, but we'll figure out where the edge is and we'll replace just that. He tried so hard to find ways of approving all the other things because of that conversation. And when we got down, he told me that I was the first and only PA that he'd ever met that really knew what the hell I was doing. And he said that in front of the insured, who owns 5 other properties. So there was a huge benefit there.
Right.
So, and it's just because I didn't do what he expected, which the PA model, the ask for everything.
Here's the attorney answer to this question. If you write an estimate and draft an estimate, be able to back it up in a deposition, go line item by line item, and be able to have some type of foundation of why, and then back it up as to why it's actually in that estimate. That's my answer to you.
Yes.
Make sure that you can back it up. And that's all, because you're going to have these eventually, if you write estimates in this industry, you're going to be deposed and they're going to go line by line. So make sure you can do that. And that's my answer.
So what about the iffy items? The line items that you could justify, but are a little bit pushing it. What would you do?
I mean, better safe than sorry. I mean, if it's something that like is in Xactimate, or you have to build an Xactimate, but is never actually ever done, why put it in?
Even if you know, I'm going to give you an example just so that we're not talking about ifs. So I have an HOA community, and the eaves are 23 feet up. It's a 2-story HOA set of buildings. Eaves are 23 feet up. OSHA requires that chutes be used to remove materials that is greater than 20 feet above the ground. Now, I know a roofer's probably not going to install chutes because it's above, or it's a shingle roof. It's asphalt shingles on an HOA. They're going to do what they normally do and just throw them to the ground. It's only 3 feet above that line. Now, I could justify the line item because OSHA mandates that chutes be used. But it's not actually going to be done unless I force the contractor to actually do it. And if I force the contractor to actually do it, then they're probably not going to make any additional profit doing it anyway because the line item in Xactimate is kind of low for it. So what should I do? Should I pad it so that my personal fees are raised? Because I'm the only one that would benefit in this situation. Contractor's probably not going to make any additional money if they actually have to do the work. I don't think I should, and so I don't. But I had to be told that, by the way. My initial reaction to this very situation was to put it in the estimate. And I was proven wrong. Learn from my mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the contractor's going to do it and they're going to incur the expense, put it in after. Put it in as a cost incurred.
Matt Danskin says estimate for it. He's going to need that extra money to pay the OSHA fines. That's true. It's true.
No, well, hang on. So if you put it in and it's not done, then the insurance company says fraud. If you don't put it in, the contractor can't justify saying, well, it wasn't approved, so I'm not going to abide by OSHA. Abide by OSHA, prove that you did it, and then submit that cost incurred with an additional margin on it showing that you did it. There's nothing wrong with supplementing the claims, too. But there's so many of these things that are not getting done that to estimate for it prior to realizing doing it or having that contractor, or even worse, billing for it, going to go get that depreciation, even though it was never done, that's a far more harmful position, in my opinion.
So you work for the policyholder, and the policyholder is owed the ACV value of the chutes, even if the contractor doesn't do it. So should we be fighting for the chutes? The answer is still no.
I mean, they're owed an ACV, they're owed an ACV amount for labor and material of the stuff that's there. I don't know that they're owed ACV funds on chutes that have never been installed, aren't there during the time of the loss. I mean, is that stuff owed for if it's incurred to do the project? Probably. I don't know that that's ACV funds owed though.
That's a very good question and a solid point. They weren't installed before. So is it built into the construction cost of the original building? This is an attorney question. What do you think?
Well, the fact pattern that you provided is that it's an ACV payment, right? So
Right.
to get the held back depreciation, it's got to be incurred cost, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's how it typically.
Right,
That's how
that's
it
the-
works.
that's the
That's how it's
depreciation.
supposed. That's how it's supposed to work.
Right. But
Right.
does the ACV include chutes that never existed the first time around? When they cut material, when they installed the roof and they had to cut the excess off, there's waste.
But hey, let me
was
ask you
there supposed
this.
to be chutes?
Let me ask you this:
installed the roof?
ordinance or law? Typically, that's a cost incurred, right? Is
Sure.
that the same thing with OSHA? Right? These are law. These are ordinances that you have to abide by. Is that cost incurred?
The OSHA isn't built into the policy like ordinance and law is.
No,
Ordinance
no,
and
no.
law
I
is
agree,
built in as a
but
cost incurred.
agreed.
Is OSHA the code that you're saying? it is?
But Atlanta building codes aren't built into the policy either. But ordinance and law covers that, right? So that's
On
the
an
situa-
incurred basis.
Exactly, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I believe it should be a cost incurred thing. Here's the curveball: is when it's in litigation and it's a lump sum settlement where there is no supplements. Do you put it in or not? Right?
Or
Because
appraisal for the same reason.
yeah. So I mean, these are some curveballs that, because I've seen contractors use these chutes that you're talking about. I've seen them do it. So it's like, well, are we going to handcuff the contractor not to be able to do that on a lump sum settlement that doesn't have the chutes?
So I think the answer is that you should be reasonable for the claim that you're working on. If you know the contractor is not going to do it, then don't put it in the estimate. If you happen to know that contractor is going to do it, put it in the estimate. If you're the contractor and you're going to do it, put it in the estimate. If you're the contractor and you're not going to do it, what the hell are you doing putting crap like that in your estimate if you're not going to do it? Jeez.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Be reasonable.
Exactly. 100%.
That's the answer.
100%.
All right. I told Mr. Behrens that we were going to keep this one at exactly 1 hour because he's actually still packing up his entire house to move. And if we don't keep it at 1 hour, his wife might kill him. And since I used her body and put my face over it earlier for a photo, I don't want to get on her bad side.
You probably already are.
I probably am. That's probably true.
No, she died. You had to dig deep for that photo. That was impressive. So props there, Matt. I got that photo actually when I was in our L10 leadership meeting today on a Zoom call with my entire leadership team. I was red for like 5 minutes. I was laughing so hard. So thanks for thanks for that. That was good today.
No problem. No problem. I do everything I can to make people blush.
I'm not gonna lie, it made me cringe a little. I was a little, yeah.
You?
Yeah, it did.
Really?
'Cause
It was
of how
creepy.
awful that
It was.
Photoshop
it was-
job was.
I
I
couldn't
just
get
want
into
everyone to
Photoshop.
know it was not me. I did not do it.
The hat
It's
did
not
not
where
have
you're at, so.
I did a
not
double
the
take
hat.
on it and then laughed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, if you're wanting to make the transition from residential to commercial work, you could get a hold of C3 and they could take care of you. If you need some help on understanding how to go about inspecting those kind of properties as a contractor, C3 will help with that. I'll help with that. Pat Remington will too.
Yep.
Although I'd love to see you on a roof.
You've seen me on a roof.
We should get on a roof together soon.
We've done videos on roofs
Let's
together.
do a live show from a roof.
Sign me up.
Why haven't we done this yet?
Oh,
Yeah, that's exactly what we're gonna do.
like
That's not a
that.
bad idea.
And we're gonna try a
The
repair
Atlas.
on the Atlas.
Yeah. You can't do that.
I know. You can't do
It's
that.
not possible.
Matt, congratulations on being the CEO of C3. That's great. That's awesome, man. Really. And good luck on your move to
Thank
Texas.
you very much. Appreciate it.
Why are you moving to Texas?
Yeah, looking forward to it. Hey, happy wife, happy life.
She wants to move to Texas.
There's a lot
That's
of
the key.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons though. So can't say no to that opportunity. It's exciting to see what's going on down there, and I think I can help. So good stuff coming.
Everybody's moving to Texas.
Do you feel left out?
Everybody. I feel left out. I feel like I should jump off that cliff.
Come join me, Matt. Come join me.
Yeah, I'd miss Remington.
Yeah. No, you're not leaving Georgia.
No.
Sorry, bud.
I'm stuck.
Matt, it's been a pleasure, bud. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you. All right.
So I
was
feel like we have a question that was just not answered.
What?
What's the benefit of moving to commercial?
Money.
The reward.
Sure, but what if you can shit out 5 times the amount of residential in the same time of doing commercial? I mean, I feel like this was an untapped
It's a man-hour
conversation.
issue. I think you're right. It's a man-hour issue. So if when
Sure.
we were doing 3,000 claims a year residential, we had 24 employees.
Don't talk to me. I was asking.
You asked the question. That's
I was
right. You're a
trying to
disembodied voice.
Thought
I
provoke
forgot.
here.
I feel like
Let me
that question
talk
was answered
to
in
the
like
season.
different puzzles.
Yeah.
Because you talked about the overhead. I mean, if you have 3,000 residential clients, the overhead is obvious. It's going to be there. Versus having one commercial claim that is equal to maybe, which I'm just 100 residential claims. You don't have to have as much overhead.
I mean, it depends on the size of your large claim,
Yeah.
obviously. But I
Right.
mean, the issue is that there is a lot more overhead for the smaller ones. There's a lot more man hours involved in the smaller ones. Vehicle wear and tear. I mean, you're driving all over the place. There's so many different things that go into going that route.
Okay, but that's from a public adjuster standpoint. What about commercial?
You mean contractor?
Contractor?
That's what
Yeah,
you meant.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
I could tell. From a contractor standpoint, you probably have the same issue. You have a lot more labor crews to maintain. You have production managers that have to be involved in every single one. You might have one commercial roof that you're installing that one production manager could handle and one crew, and it might take a while to get it done, but that's only one job, one client to keep happy versus 100 clients that always seem to have something to complain about.
So essentially, Listen to This Bull is doing a PA announcement for go commercial.
I'm saying there's a difference. So there is money in residential. I think that there isn't enough PAs in order to handle it, though there are some things coming down the line that could fill that gap. You know, the virtual PA is an interesting option. There are companies like Coastal Claims that do a ton of residential nationwide and are currently expanding. There's a company, they changed their name recently. There's a company called ClaimBot. I don't know what they're called now that is doing something similar. There are things that are going to be meeting that need. So the lack of PAs for residential claims is kind of a short-term problem that will end up having a fix because that's how capitalism works after all. But in the meantime, it's a national projection for a contractor, for a public adjuster, even for attorneys. It happens, and it's unfortunate.
And I feel like it's state driven specific as well.
Sure.
I mean, it's easier for me to take a residential claim in Florida than it is in Georgia. And guys, I don't want to beat a dead horse on it, but it just is. And I will take residential claims in Florida all day long. And I know contractors that only do residential claims and they have a great business, make great profits, but they are running these claims constantly. And, you know, it's part of it. You know, it just is.
I feel like that there's more to lose in that regard for a residential contractor, especially for roofers, if the insurance policies in that state change even slightly. Georgia's going through a tough time right now with carriers that are normally easy to deal with suddenly are saying no to everything, and it's because they're not getting their hands slapped at all. I mean, contractors are dealing with insurance carriers that normally would have said yes to everything, and suddenly they're not. We're going to have an episode about that soon. And just because I'm not afraid, that carrier is State Farm. I said it live.
There you go. Listen to that bull.
Listen to it. So there's going to be a whole episode on that because there are states where carriers try things and they know that they'll get away with it. So if it doesn't work in the state that they can get away with it, then it's not going to work in the others. So this is one of those states where they give an attempt at trying stuff. And so we're going to have a whole episode on that. But the next episode is going to be at Win the Storm.
Excited.
Next Tuesday is the
30th? 31st?
See, these are the kind of answers I was looking for.
It is the
you guys
30th.
failed.
We're going to be there building the booth the day of the 30th. So at 4 p.m. Eastern on the 30th, we might actually have to push this back slightly. We might even push it off to the 31st. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. We may change the date and time of our very next episode. But it will be at Win the Storm, depending on how the internet works inside that facility. Remington and I are both going to be at the Listen to This Bull booth that will be there. I've been working on it hard. It's this nice bull. Huggins Law Firm is sponsoring a big giveaway. If you come visit us at our booth, there it is.
Describe it. You would be better than
This
me
is
at
the DJI Mini 2. The Mini 2 is actually pretty cool. It's of the right weight, 249 grams, that it will not have to be registered. You still have to have a Part 107 license to fly this commercially, but you don't have to register it because it's not 250 grams. It's 1 gram lighter. But it has a 4K camera. It's fantastic for someone that has a little bit of experience flying. It doesn't have all the sensors all over it for obstacle avoidance. But it will allow you to take some fantastic photos and video if you're good with the controls of a roof for inspection if you want to, or cinematic stuff. It's actually a great little drone. The benefit being that it's 1 gram less than the requirement for registering.
You should be the guy who describes products on The Price is Right. That was pretty good, man.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's $251.
Love it.
Actually, that's an $800 drone. Actually, with that kit, I think it's more than that.
It
'Cause
is.
You got the 3 batteries and all that. You got the Mac Daddy right there.
It's the good deal.
So
Subscribe.
To win this thing, you got to come to our booth and you have to like and subscribe and comment on a video. And if you're already liked and subscribed, then you just have to come and comment on a video or something.
There you go.
And then we'll pull a random person that has done all that at the end of the day, or at the end of the thing, which is the Friday. And if you have to be there though. You have to be there on Friday for us to call your name. We're going to hand this out. You can take it with you. And if you're flying and you can't put it there, then we'll ship it to you.
There you
We'll
go.
make it work. We're nice people.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah. So come visit us at booth 220, possibly 223 as well. We might be expanding into a booth right next to us.
Let's do it.
So when the storm is our next event, I'm hoping to have John Wood talk to us then. It depends on if he makes it there in time. Otherwise, we'll play it by ear on who it is we have. Maybe we'll have multiple guests all there at the same time. Who knows? Hat's going to be with me. It's going to be great.
And not a floating head.
Not a floating head. I think that I'm going to have her stand behind me so that you can't actually see her when you're talking to me. You just hear her voice. That'll be really weird.
I love it.
Cool. Maybe I should wear a really big bodysuit so it's easier for you to hide behind me? Like an
Well,
inflatable...
Are you calling me fat?
No.
I feel like that was a direct
That
attack
isn't what I said at
at
all.
my size.
How did you get that? Jeez. Women.
Can I just have little doll arms and stick them around?
There you go.
Talk
Yes.
with doll arms.
That would be kind of cool.
It'd be great.
That would be kind of cool. I hope you do that.
I look forward to it. I look forward to seeing everybody there. And if you're not there, we will be live running the show.
Yeah, it's a shame. You won't see us live. All right, well, thanks, everybody. We'll see you next Tuesday, probably. But maybe, who knows?
Take it easy.